Kryon, communication with the cells. Greetings, my dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Many of you who tune into these channels know that I have spoken about a very special new energy for 2026. One of the questions we continue to receive from many who are interested in what is innate or your healing is this: will the new energy create better communication with the cells? The answer is, the new energy is an acceptance factor. It will not create anything for you. It is you. I would like to take a step back and explain some of these things more clearly. Much of the energy work you are doing is quite linear. In that sense, it is treated the way you would treat anything else. You apply energy in a certain way and it gives you something else. You set the energy for something and it allows you something else. So, almost always you have the energy first and then, whatever it is, it gives back to you, then you receive it and work with it. This is a different thing. We have told you what this new energy contains, that it is special, unusual, non-linear, and perhaps even an exception to the rules you have always had for energy. This is not a new energy, even though we speak of it that way because those are the only terms we can use. It is truly a dimensional shift. Now, this is not new energy. A dimensional shift is a change in dimension, plain and simple. The dimensional shift is a description of a reality that consciousness can create that did not exist before. A new dimension is almost like a completely new attitude being there, ready to be discovered. An attitude, we could say, towards energy. Dimensionality can be defined as what you experience in relation to your reality. You sit in an earthly reality and you know certain things, you can do certain things in a certain way. Suddenly, you might say, there is a concession for a higher reality. A higher reality simply means you can do more things. You can see more kinds of things that you couldn't before. Dimensionality is often simply a description of the attributes of reality. Height, width, breadth, depth, time, whatever you want to say. They are the attributes you live in. And suddenly, for example, if you became more aware of something on a psychic level, that would be another attribute of your reality. Now you are in another reality, you might say, but this is an important reality. A dimensional shift is simply the permission to progress in an area that one day might allow you to connect with the superconscious. And I've just told you things that many don't understand. The question that arises is, will this new energy, as we have said, allow for better communication with your cells, or will it create it? The answer is, absolutely yes. That's one of the reasons this is happening, but it has to come from something different from what you think. There are those who believe that a higher consciousness of an individual reflects how close they are in their faith to what is the Creator or God or whatever you think. It is much deeper than that, my dear ones. It is not about your faith. It's not really about how close you get to your soul, because suddenly we're only talking about your body, just your body. Now, a complete bodily experience obviously involves your soul, but suddenly it's a bit different from how you think. I have given information about contacting the innate. Why do some find it easy and others difficult, and yet they are both believers, you might say, light workers, you might say, and yet one will have an immediate connection and the other will not. And we have told you that it has to do with things like your soul plan and everything the innate knows. All this information is given in an older energy. Here is the new energy, and that is precisely the point of the question. Will it be something that will improve communication with your cells? Not only will it improve it, dear ones, but it will build a highway to reach it, dear ones, but it doesn't happen just because you're sitting there. I want to go back in history for a moment. I gave you a book, a journey, an allegory, a parable, a story. Some called it Michael Thomas and the Seven Angels. The book was called The Journey Home. And in the book, the hero of the day, the one who traveled the book with you, was called Michael Thomas of pure intent. And as many times as we wanted to explain the of pure intent part, it was still not very understood what it meant. And then we tried to give you the example of an individual standing on the banks of a river or a lake, and asking you what the intention was to jump in. It's not about hoping to end up in the lake, is it? If he jumps, does he hope to get into the lake? When he jumps, does he wish to land in the lake? And the answer is that, due to circumstances you call gravity, the reality of the moment was that if they jumped, they would end up in the lake. And the definition of that was pure intent. If there were no gravity, there would be illusory intent or a hope that they might float into the lake. But no, they knew what would happen. The commitment was 100%. That is pure intent. Now, what does this have to do with your spirituality, your belief system, or your doctrine? And the answer is, not much. It's internal, isn't it? It's you with you, right? Now are you starting to let me shape a new reality for you, regarding your part of what communicates with your cellular structure through the innate? It requires that you have an awareness. You recognize that when you start talking to your cells, they are there. Now you would say, okay, I believe that and I acknowledge that. That's it. Not enough. Your soul knows it. Your spirit knows it. The innate knows it. Your cells know it. Do you have the code to enter, so to speak? And that code is pure intent. Don't you find it interesting that so many of the instantaneous healings that occur on this planet come from people in distress? It's their last breath, you might say. It's the last thing I can do. I'm doing it, and it works because there is a total and complete surrender that it must work, or else. Now, this is pure emergency intent, but that's not what you want, my dear ones. You want a continuous jump into the lake. You want to know with absolute certainty that when you say, cells, listen, everything stops and they are listening. And that's when you give them the instructions. The same kind of instructions we've given before in this program that you give in a tincture or a homeopathic remedy. It's absolute. It's there. The innate sees it and that's what happens. You know what happens and there is healing power. You have to be the absolute purity of the tincture in your consciousness. What does it really mean, Kryon? What does it really mean? It means you cannot doubt it. You cannot wish for it. You cannot hope for it. You will do it because it works. Now, this will take a bit of work to get a little closer to what your body is, which is perhaps your very consciousness. It will also take a bit of practice. You need to have self-esteem. There must be at least some self-esteem. If you don't have it, how can you ever have a commitment that works? You will always doubt, right? Now, a higher consciousness in another dimensionality helps you with self-esteem. That's another story. That's another level. If I were to summarize all this, I would say yes to the answer. Better communication with the cells, much better, but with a little preliminary work. That preliminary work in this extra dimensionality, the reality you live in that changes with elevated consciousness, is a more compassionate connection with your Creator. Now, this is not faith, dear ones. This is connection. Dear ones, there is a big difference between what you believe about certain things and how they work, and an absolute connection with Spirit, where you live and breathe the fact that Spirit knows you, sings your name, and every single day that is your reality. Not occasionally, not when you meditate, always. The dimensional shift serves to empower all this, so suddenly the different levels we are giving you become a bit more complex than the linearity you have had in the past, seeing yourselves connected in such a way that you perceive it constantly. And then, from there you start working with the connection to your cells. Do you see this? You have to turn on the light to see what you're doing. That light is commitment. That light is the intent you have to work with your body in sync with what is innate. Not your belief system, dear ones, but your commitment. I hope I have told you a little more, and there is still much to explain. I am so in love with you all. And so it is. Truth incarnate, dear ones, the lunar eclipse in Virgo, the fifth of the eclipse set on the Virgo-Pisces axis, will not go unnoticed. We are already perceiving the immense purification process underway in our bodies and on a planetary level right now, as fire, water, and earth are transforming us to adapt to our new harmonic space. A personal purification that will pave the way for the incarnation of truth in our being and in our lives, so that we can see clearly where we are going. Fire and water reign over our skies. Fire transmutes, purifies, and restores power. Fire can also burn. Water balances fire, as it soothes, adapts to everyone, and always flows. Fire and water remind us at this moment of the importance of letting go, resting, recovering, remaining in an infinite state of constant embrace and surrender, and adapting to inevitable change when we have chosen to ascend in this 3D plane. Our fascia and nervous system are already perceiving the new energetic influx. Virgo represents precisely purification, the process of conscious refinement that we choose to create in our light bodies, physical bodies, and in our lives to realign with the place where we have now chosen to co-create. Our entire bodies and lives are going through a process of refinement so that we can integrate the new frequency that now reigns on Earth and that many of you are embodying to continue recreating the place you were assigned to go, as this eclipse will also mean a major shift in your planetary mission for many of you. Virgo reminds us of the importance of coherence and integrity at this time, as the only way to trigger the necessary changes in ourselves and in the bodies we wish to continue ascending physically, creating the lives that are now aligned with who we have become. The current astrological energies, as everything is already happening simultaneously, assist us in our purification process and in our purpose of restoring balance on all levels. At the time of the Virgo eclipse we have the Sun, the North Node, Mercury retrograde, Venus and Mars in Pisces, opposite the Moon in the South Node in Virgo, and sextile to Jupiter in Cancer, establishing the balance, self-care, and purification needed to continue sowing our new light bodies in our new lives, because the more we reconnect with the dimensions of the soul, the more we leave behind what we no longer wish to experience. Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus in Pisces is a wonderful energy to work on soul recovery, forgiving our past and recovering love, wisdom, and joy, extending them to our relationships, as this is a time when many will say goodbye to long-standing relationships that have now completed their purpose. At the moment, many will feel confused about their feelings in relationships, because when only one of the two grows in a certain direction, it is not possible to continue engaging energetically, physically, and emotionally with the other, finding it very difficult to take the step to let go of the relationship. When this happens, dedicating time, love, and care to oneself is essential to reach a greater understanding of one's current situation and the process one is going through, learning in one's own time to let go. The frequencies of the Virgo eclipse are intended to show us what is not aligned, what is obsolete within us, and therefore, another form of dead energy. They come to help us understand what we need to transform or purify in order to adapt to a new energy and our new state of being. Mercury also reminds us of the importance of mental purification, as everything originates in the mind. It invites us to focus on the way we talk to ourselves, as often the root cause of negative programming is the dialogue with ourselves. Swimming in the waters of Pisces, it invites us to remove rigid mental structures, false programs, and beliefs about ourselves or our personal reality. With the nodes in Pisces and Virgo, many will also undergo a profound shift, releasing old aspects of themselves, karmic bonds and judgments, surrendering to their true selves, something we are also witnessing in the collective as they gradually move towards a compassionate state, reminding us that we are here to be loving and compassionate channels of the divine, incarnated in a human body. Achieving perfection, as Virgo tends to invite us to achieve, can make us fall into anxiety, as perfection is only God, and we should never rush our personal evolution to become what we are. Many are the distractions, the non-benevolent tactics we continue to witness on our 3D Earth. Saturn and Neptune in Aries, sextile Uranus in Taurus and sextile Pluto in Aquarius represent the many changes we are witnessing in society, as well as the structural changes and transformation that our planet is undergoing, which, again, do not represent the divine order that many of you are here to restore, but the new 3D world order. However, the more peace, love, and neutrality we nurture within ourselves and for everyone, the more we will manifest the same feelings in our personal reality, contributing to peace in the world. We cannot change what we do not have the power to change. Focusing on what we cannot change makes us suffer and becomes self-punishment or another form of unconscious personal aggression that we must distill, as taking care of our emotional body is essential for our well-being. We knew we had arrived on a planet with free will, an experimental planet where all choices are allowed. A dual world that will continue to exist, coexisting with the parallel Earths of 5th and 7th dimension, also created thanks to the efforts of many of you to continue supporting this new frequency. This is what the Virgo eclipse, planetarily speaking, asks of us, to continue removing what is not pure from our bodies, our minds, and our lives, so that we can continue to see the new Earth in our hearts, supporting and stabilizing this enlightened frequency for those who are already moving towards the harmonic dimensions of the Earth. This is already strongly felt by many of us, who are seeing how specific areas of our chart are being transformed, activated, or even completely transmuted as we let go of aspects of ourselves, our lives, and our relationships that we can no longer support. The new frequency that the Earth is now embodying and that we also integrate through our conscious will to co-create with it, has nothing to do with those we were used to before. It repels opposing forces, unconscious thoughts, feelings, and actions within us, and it leaves us if we are not ready to make the necessary leap to transcend who we were and embrace who we have become. The Virgo eclipse will bring to light everything we hide due to our fears and doubts. It will not be easy, but it will help us continue our process of personal and planetary liberation. In these moments of confusion, when you don't know what to do or how to act as if God were within you, because He is there. Act as God will act and realign love, joy, and your personal power to return to being who you are. Everything is fine, even though you may not see it yet. Everything is moving in the direction you have chosen and towards your new divine destination. Keep becoming, beloved ones. In infinite love, Natalia Alba Astrological message from March 2026. It's hard to believe we're heading into March, given that 2026 has started quite surreal and foggy. Note, as if the weeks had flown by in the blink of an eye, but time had also stood still. It's hard to express, but there's a dreamlike quality, as if we're here but not here at the same time. Personally, it's not unusual for me to feel in another world, but this feeling is more condensed, as if life is changing and shifting, while I can see myself from the outside, observing my life from within, trying to make sense of everything around it. I can see the waves of change crashing on the shore of my soul, but I'm not fully absorbed in the moment, so I can't feel the spray of the waves on my skin, or the cool air brushing against me. And yet this experience is not just mine. It's as if we are all perceiving the changes, trying to find our balance, feeling more connected than ever, but a little more disoriented at the same time. So, although we are all beginning to feel more present and aware, it is difficult to feel invigorated or excited about the process, as we are still in the space between here and there, trying to make sense of it all. We all continue to follow those threads of possibility that weave into the fabric of life, reminding us to live more consciously and intuitively, and to have the courage to let our gifts flow freely. It is important to recognize that a constant search for perfection does not necessarily guarantee a happy life, as it can act as a powerful inner critic that makes us feel we are not where we feel we should be in life. There is also the risk of losing ourselves in the feeling of being less than, and this undermines our self-esteem and self-compassion. It is time to find a way to cultivate happiness as a force in its own right and stop feeling as if we have to correct everything we perceive as imperfect in ourselves to feel complete. We are complex beings leading complex lives, but we risk getting bogged down if we don't find a way to break free from those musts and shoulds that control and contain us, instead expanding beyond the four walls of our daily lives. No one is less than, and even though society often passes judgment on those perceived as different, it is time to break free from the idea that even if someone is different from our unique perception of normal, it doesn't mean they are wrong or somehow need to be fixed. In an ideal world, we would all have reached a point of acceptance that normality does not exist, but this is a work in progress. It is a time of acceptance and embracing a more sincere way of living and being, cultivating love and compassion. Of course, it would be wonderful if love and compassion made the world go round, but they are still fundamental concepts that nourish all aspects of life and allow each of us to shift perspective towards a more open existence. The more present we become, the more aware we become of the big picture, seeing those magical threads weaving far beyond anything we previously thought possible. At the same time, the more present we are, the more aware we become of every sound, every thought, and every breath. It feels overwhelming, but it's just the willingness to gently align with the breath of the universe. Nothing to do, just be. Despite the complexity of being human, many of us deeply desire to live more simply and in tune with natural cycles. However, in a complex world, life can often seem too intricate and tangled to unravel and find simplicity. Consequently, many seek to find peace living amidst these tangles, continuing to persevere, heads down, as we weather life's storms. Of course, even when we embrace a simpler lifestyle, the storms don't vanish, but we can feel more equipped to ride the waves without feeling like a piece of wood carried by the current. The dilemma arises from knowing that we also need to be more fluid and ride the currents, but not like pieces of wood, but rather as a conscious choice to enter the ebb and flow. March seems set to be a more balanced month, bringing us time to rest and reflect as we begin to recharge and regenerate our hearts and souls. Although there are still so many unanswered questions, when we realize there will always be unanswered questions, but we choose to live anyway, we stop looking at what we need to do to cultivate happiness and joy, and we begin to just be ourselves. So while most of us don't have real clarity when it comes to knowing exactly where we're going or why, we can feel the need to seek a deeper sense of balance as we begin to expand our capacities to live more consciously. Despite the paradoxes each of us faces, clarity is beginning to emerge, and it's tantalizing and exciting, as we let go of the conditions and limitations that have shaped our choices and choose to connect with life more consciously than ever. This is a time to live magically, vibrantly, and intuitively. For now, as always, I wish you all sorts of wonder. With love, Sarah Jane the Elders. Spiritual consciousness. Do you see that the consciousness you are is more than what the mind professes? The mind is the most humble part of you and does not understand spiritual awareness. It does not understand what it mocks and says has no value. Do you recognize that the mind came with a body? It is what helps you navigate this planet, but it is not that part of you that is so highly aligned. It is definitely not that. Recognize that the mind will block, judge, and mislead what we are about to share. You see, the mind, which should be a tool, wants you to remain under its semblance of control. It simply wants to manage, monitor, and direct everything you do. And if you have not started from the heart space each morning or connected there at some point during the day, and actually throughout the day, then we suggest you live in a mental game most of the time. Is this a new consideration? How do you expect to grow if you consider nothing new? Know that your purpose might not be something you consider new, but I suggest that what we share is not public knowledge. You see, we do not share the purpose of life, but your spiritual goal and why you are here. The mind wants you to need it endlessly, because if you acquire spiritual mastery or spiritual awareness, then you will no longer need the mind as you do now. You can determine the spiritual consciousness of past lives by how your life is going today. You see, when there are shortcomings in a life and it is abandoned, those shortcomings remain attached to the soul. It's not that you arrived this way or that by a fluke of nature or because of bad genes. Rather, consider it as something outlined in one's life blueprint or due to past choices. You see, this life is a gift. Each person receives their life as a gift from the choices made in a life prior to this one. So the best method to determine what you seek to know is to observe how your current life is going. Is it time to release some of the minor energetic baggage you carry? Recognize and let go of what came before. Is it time to understand why your soul wanted to be here in the first place? That original goal has been lost over the many lives lived. This is the best way to know what kind of life existed before this one and all the others. The Arturian group. Alignment with higher frequencies. Dear readers, the present has become a time of change. As high-frequency energy flows towards Earth, destabilizing long-standing personal and global core belief systems, the low-resonance forms of many current traditions, teachings, and religious doctrines, man-made social rules, and long-accepted situations of power and control will collapse in the presence of high-frequency light energy. People on Earth are becoming receptive to ideas of unity, rather than those that continue to promote separation. This happens because the presence of so many spiritually evolved individuals on Earth right now is creating a more evolved collective, which in turn will allow more and more people to access ideas of higher truth. That's why when the call went out for volunteers among those who were evolved enough to hold the light during density, you volunteered. People are beginning to perceive an alignment with the higher frequencies of the more enlightened collective, which is opening them up to forms, words, activities, promotions, services, and information that reflect unity. At the same time, people are beginning to recognize that many of the rules and beliefs that currently govern life on Earth benefit only a small circle of people. Your job as a light holder is to raise the energy of the Earth's collective consciousness, a vital component of the ascension process. Even when or if you face various physical, emotional, mental, or even spiritual difficulties, know that your evolved state of consciousness is the reason. You are on Earth right now. Some people are called to witness and report news or in some way be actively involved in it, but your task as a light worker is to be, carry, sustain, and allow the light of truth to express in you and as you, a task that not everyone can do. Accept yourself as a divine being rather than a limited human being. Let go of the many ingrained concepts you may still have about yourself as Mary or Joe. Silently and secretly keep a part of your awareness always resting in the I am, as you go about what might seem like normal everyday activities. Doing this makes every moment a living meditation. Practice knowing the truth about yourself rather than continuing to focus on the false sense of self you have learned to believe is what you are. Just as it is common to speak of a body of water, think of yourself as a body of God. Three-dimensional thinking continues to preach that a person must first heal, change, repair, suffer, atone, pray, and offer sacrifices to be spiritual or know God. The truth is exactly the opposite. A consciousness of unity knows that nothing real needs healing, repair, or change because divine consciousness/God, the true self of every person, is complete, whole, perfect, and is all that exists. Never claim that good or bad qualities are personally yours. Good qualities, love, forgiveness, harmony, peace, etc., are divine qualities that manifest through individuals, as allowed. Bad qualities are manifestations of a consciousness ignorant of the truth and immersed in beliefs of separation from God. When you accept a negative quality as personally yours, it automatically becomes yours because you are a creator. Learn to translate and reinterpret all appearances into truth. If you feel insecurity or fear, acknowledge, I am self-sufficient and self-sustaining, and this is my security and protection. If you believe you have lacks, acknowledge, I do not need to obtain abundance because I am the substance of abundance. Know that the five senses of your physical body are material forms of omniscience. As you learn to reinterpret three-dimensional appearances and problems in your life, truth gradually becomes your state of consciousness where practice is no longer necessary. The Earth's evolutionary school has always been one of learning and evolution through experience. In each of your many lives you have chosen the lessons and experiences you felt ready for to evolve to your next level of awareness. You have lived hundreds of lives and have been both male and female, worn every color of skin, and followed many different belief systems and religions. You have experienced positions of power and have been a slave. You have been dominated and you have been the dominator. You have been a peacemaker and a warrior. You have been kind and loving and you have been cruel. Nothing in anyone's past is, or ever was, a waste. Never look back on experiences from a previous state of consciousness thinking you wasted opportunities or failed, because the fact that you are now aware of how you could have handled something better indicates that you have evolved from that previous state of consciousness. Every experience is a facet of a person's evolutionary path, A path that is not made of deadlines, shoulds, musts, or waste. There are those who, at first glance, seem to waste their lives, but that's how some learn in their current state of consciousness. Prisons and jails can be important evolutionary tools, and some even need to fall flat on their face or lose everything to evolve. Do not try to save those who refuse suggestions or offers of help. Always keep your hand outstretched to grasp someone who might reach out, but your job is not to forcefully pull someone out of the street experience they have chosen. Those who walk through their misadventures will learn from the experience and looking back will say, "Wow, that was stupid, I won't do that again." Every soul will eventually reach full awareness of its divine nature because that is reality. It is easy to get discouraged as the contrasts between light and darkness become increasingly evident. Most concepts in today's world reflect the beliefs of a previous, less evolved collective, beliefs simply passed down from generation to generation. In order for the new, higher expressions of an evolving collective to express themselves, the manifestations of the old collective must be seen for what they represent, rejected, and no longer fed by the energies of faith. You may find that there are some areas of your life that you do not want to change or that you do not want to fade away, and this is natural, but it is important to remember that nothing real ever truly dissolves because reality is permanent, held in place by divine law. The divine ideas that underlie many things considered material, some friendships, entertainments, traditions, creativities, medicine, education, government, spirituality, etc., cannot help but manifest again in higher, better forms once the lower resonance form has dissolved. Nothing real is ever gone, can ever be lost, or is ever lost. It is only the material sense of something that dissolves because concepts have no divine law to support them. Some of you are noticing that you no longer have friends. Be patient as old alignments fade away, because without conscious effort on your part, your new, higher state of consciousness will attract to you those who are in alignment. Since there is only one, like energy always attracts like energy. Be grateful for the joy, traditions, love, companionship, guidance, fun, experiences, and lessons of the past, but do not try to recreate them in their old forms or cling to them once they have served in that state of consciousness. The qualities of divine consciousness are experienced at all levels of awareness. You are not spiritually failing if you are guided to consult a doctor or get a loan. A person can never return to a previous state of consciousness. They have tried, but it doesn't work, because your state of consciousness is who and what you are. Know that when three-dimensional problems appear in the life of a spiritually evolved person, it is never random or accidental, but is there to shed light on some old belief or concept still rooted in consciousness that needs to be cleared. I am omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. It is what I am made of, the essence of who and what I am, automatically relegating the belief that I must seek, desire, and struggle to attain the forms of these divine qualities to illusion. We are the Arturian group.